Go in every aisle in the supermarket when it comes to conventional oral care. You have the usual suspects of fluoride-containing toothpaste, and then you have Listerine. Look at the history of it. It is designed to clean a floor or maybe your toilet.
What are some of the signs and symptoms that your oral cavity needs attention?
Ask yourself these three questions. Metals in my mouth? Root canals? Wisdom teeth pulled? If any answer is a yes, you might have something called oral interference, stuff that is imbalancing your microbiome, your immune system, and your nervous system on a daily basis. You do everything to optimize your health, but you still don't feel superhuman. Then it's at least time to find a good biological dentist to sort out that oral interference.
Aside from getting their root canals and cavitations fixed, talk about daily oral hygiene.
The conventional dental hygiene is actually outdated. Therefore, the toothpaste that I would recommend is always
Hey guys, welcome back to the Ultimate Human Podcast. I'm your host, human biologist Gary Brecka, where we go down the road of everything anti-aging, biohacking, longevity, and everything in between. And today's guest is a very, very, very special guest. You're going to really enjoy this podcast. He is the world's leading biological dentist, and he trains other dentists, including the dentist that did the work on my mouth, in the practice of biological dentistry. And if you're not familiar with biological dentistry, this is a must-watch episode because you are about to learn the importance of what goes on in your mouth and how it is connected to all of the organs in the rest of our body, our mental health, our gut health, and our overall well-being, performance, and our longevity. So welcome to the podcast, Dr. Nischwitz, or we call you Dr. Dom, right? Dr. Dom Nischwitz. Can I go with Dr. Dom?
Perfect.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you for having me, Gary.
I'm really excited to have you on because, my audience knows that I've really been on a mission to give biological dentistry a voice ever since I had a very personal journey, and my wife and my daughter, both of my daughters actually had a very personal journey with a biologic dentist, Dr. Jagar Gandhi, that you trained.
Yes.
As a matter of fact, and he speaks very, very highly of you. So to have the sensei on, I actually had him inspect my my dental work before the podcast. I was opening my mouth and showing him the implant. And just for those of you that are not familiar with my story, just very quickly, I had two root canals, and one of my teeth on the side, one of the sides, I had a root canal on cracked. And so Dr. Gandhi is, a dentist. He's a friend of mine. He obviously did not do the root canals. And I called him and I said, hey, I cracked this tooth. I really got to come up and see you. And at the time, I wasn't coming to see him to have the tooth extracted and to have all of these procedures done. But, he said, take a picture of it and send it to me. And I did. So I took a picture of the tooth, in my mouth, and I sent it up to him. And it was the 19th tooth meridian.
Yes.
And so he asked me a series of questions that really freaked me out. He said, let me ask you something. Do you ever get left anterior shoulder pain? And I go, that's really funny that you asked me that. I go, yeah, I thought it was a bicep tendon catch, right? In the front of my shoulder. And it wasn't enough to stop me from training, but I was very conscious of it. And then he said, do you ever get left lower lobe lung pain? And I go, dude, you are freaking me out right now. I go, whenever I do HIIT's cardio on my treadmill, I get a catch right here. I get this left lower lobe lung pain, and I have this numbness right here. And I thought it was like a runner's cramp. And then he says, does your left toe ever go numb, or does your left toe ever bother you? And I go, now I'm completely freaked out because my wife was always kind of making fun of me because sometimes I would take my shoe off and I would actually itch my left toe, or I would tap it on the ground because it felt like it was going numb. I never put these together. So he goes, that's your 19th tooth meridian. When we take that out and clean it up, all that's going to go away.
Yeah.
So the biohacker in me kicks in and I go, first of all, why wouldn't I know about this? Second of all, there's no way that all of that is going to go away from cleaning this tooth out. And long story short, I went up to see him. He did the PRF, red light, green light, ran ozone into my jaw, cleaned it all out, and then put the ceramic implant in, which you taught him how to do. And what was the most astounding was 48 hours after this happened, none of those symptoms have returned. They permanently went away and they haven't returned.
Straight away?
Straight away.
Perfect.
My wife, 5 days after having her root canals done by Dr. Gandhi, her back pain went from a constant 6 to 8 to a constant 0 to 2, very quickly. My daughter had headaches that she no longer has. And I could just go on and on and on. But what really astounded me was when we pulled the tooth out and I saw this little sac, the cavitation, and I asked Dr. Gandhi what it was, and he told me that it was full of bacteria and pus and parasites. And I said, there's no way. I would have had pain, I would have had swelling, I would have had inflammation, I would have had symptoms. And when we burst it and we put it on a dark field microscope, I could see the macrophages going after the bacteria. And I was sold, and I said, I am on a mission to tell people about this and to bring the practice of what you do to light. So I am really, really excited to have you on the podcast. So for those of people that don't know what biologic dentistry is,
yes,
right? I mean, everybody knows what a dentist is. What is the difference? What is the mission of a biologic dentist? How are they different from the regular practice of dentistry?
Yeah, I always say it's just the next level. It's the dental evolution, because obviously dentistry is a high-tech craftsmanship. And the way I define the Biodentistry 3.0 concept is it's the overlap of that high-tech dentistry with functional medicine and health optimization or biohacking. And the goal is obviously not to just fix bites and smiles, but to repair the overall body and help patients to really heal, like you just said. And this is like every dentist loves that tiny work, which is they need to do this.
Right.
But the fulfilling part is if you tell me, oh, all the symptoms are gone, because this gives me goosebumps up until this day, even though I do this already for 15 years, it's like, wow.
Yeah.
And this is how impactful it is if you understand that the mouth is the gateway to overall health. It's actually the entrance to your gut system, entrance to the body. And the teeth are not just teeny tiny, hard biting things. They're literally tiny organs directly connected to the brain nerve number 5, trigeminus.
Wow.
And therefore, everything you do on those teeth or you repair teeth will affect the whole body.
Yes. You know, it's funny because not funny, sad, I guess, when Dr. Gandhi and I did our podcast and I aired our podcast, it actually got censored. Still is on Instagram. If you go to my Instagram, it says false information.
Oh, man.
I don't know who the fact checker was, but they fact checked it and literally says that teeth are not connected to other areas of the body. So in other words, what happens in your teeth or your gums or your jaw is not going to affect the rest of the body. And how do you address that?
Yeah, this is the main issue in conventional dentistry, is that we're basically not connecting the mouth to the body. It's kind of like it's an outside realm where you can just repair. But if you just look at an anatomy chart and you see the trigeminal nerve, you can see that this goes up until the tooth. Every single tooth has a connection to that nerve. So telling that it's not connected makes no sense. This is like telling, like we said before,
that your brain fifth cranial nerve, right?
Exactly. And you have 12 cranial nerves.
Yeah,
and the trigeminal one basically has 3 branches, one here, and like upper jaw, and the other one is the complete lower jaw. So as you know, when you go to the dentist and they give you a nerve block, everything is numb. That's because it starts here.
Right.
But it's completely not logical that they say it's not connected. But obviously they're referring to that meridian system that we're always showing, because meridians are still in the woo-woo realm versus if you go to traditional Chinese medicine, it's just how they treat. It's basically just an autonomic nervous system. And if you understand how the nervous system works, the sympathetic and the stress axis, then you understand whatever chronic inflammation or toxicity you put into your body will affect the whole system. It's kind of like if you take a hormone, you know that it will affect all your cells in the body. So why do you think it doesn't do it in the mouth? It is because in dental school, I wouldn't say brainwashed, but it's really about repairing teeth with whatever material. So in the last century and still up to this date, we use a lot of different materials, especially metals.
Yes. Because
they work for biting. But they never connected that they might interact with the whole nervous system, the whole immune system, the detoxification system. And for example, in university, you have to study sciences in medical school, in dental school. It's the same as medical school. So you study biochemistry, you study chemistry, physics, microbiology, everything. But you basically learn in university that you should not put different metals right next to each other in physics in the morning, because you know that there's a battery effect and that these ions will travel. But then in the afternoon, you go in dental school and repair a patient and put a gold crown right next to an amalgam filling. So it's kind of schizophrenic. You learn all these sciences, but it's like you're just the dentist.
Yeah.
And this is the problem. And this is why dentists always have this connotation of, I hate to see the dentist. No one wants to go there.
Right.
It's a repair business, drill, fill, and bill. And this is what I'm going to change.
Drill, fill, and bill.
That's what I want to change, because patients that come see us, they're in for the complete treatment. And they tell you, I lost my problems with my gut. I have no more frozen shoulder. My mental health issues are gone. I have no more eczema. And by the way, he also put in beautiful teeth. So that is the focus. Like, it's a complete holistic approach to optimizing one's health.
I mean, I think it's absolutely got to be a part of somebody's optimal health journey. I mean, if you're listening to this and you've had root canals, or you have dental work that you haven't been addressing, now is absolutely the time. And I'd be happy to provide you with a list of dentists that he's trained, because my personal experience is one that really has driven me to be passionate about this subject. And then when my wife and my oldest daughter and youngest daughter all had the very similar experiences, I said, this can't not be the case.
And this is still the fulfilling thing. And if you do it like myself, I do that for half my life. I have that moral obligation to tell, because it is so insane, that you realize, oh wow, even myself, I had the wisdom teeth pulled, like almost all of the people out there. Right. And I didn't connect it to my various health issues, but then we found cavitations at one point. And in surgery for myself, I realized, oh wow, my chronic back pain goes away, and had to laugh and told my surgeon back then, is this even possible? Then I had skin issues a lot. And then my diet was already on lock, like perfectly. Right. And all the things you do, but it wasn't good. And 2 weeks after surgery, I had beautiful skin again after 5 years. And I had like a little bit of a nervousness in the morning. Really? I thought early 30s. I thought I'm going to get Parkinson's or whatever. Right. Also gone straight after surgery, never came back. I understand why that is, because if you have chronic inflammation and there's toxins in there, there's parasites, virus, etc., they affect the immune system, make you more autoimmune prone, and shift your TH1 to TH2 system. But also, just chronic inflammation produces stress. It's a stress. So,
and when you're talking about chronic inflammation related to the jaw, you're talking about these, you refer to them as cavitations. These are pools of inflammation, bacteria, parasites.
That's one chronic inflammation in the jawbone. The other one is the root canals. They're usually chronically infected. If you're really being precise when it comes to diagnostics and use a 3-dimensional cone beam, you literally, in at least 80% of all cases, you see some sort of a chronic ongoing inflammation on the tip of the root. Yes. But the problem is, a usual dentist will only ask you, do you have pain? Yes. No. Okay, then we just monitor it. But which chronic health issue is pain? So is it painful to have depression? No. Is it painful to have eczema? Not really. So it's the wrong tool, because a chronic inflammation is basically the body got used to it and reduces the volume, the receptors basically, so you don't feel it anymore. Right. So therefore you have to.
Well, in the case of a root canal, you've actually killed the nerve, right? So
you killed it.
So now you could have pain, you just don't feel it, right?
You killed it, and also because it's an ongoing chronic inflammation, your body just reduces the pain, because it's kind of like let's say a laziness of the body, because it has no solution for it. So it just reduces it, makes it a little bit numb. If the stuff is numb, it's really bad, because then you don't connect it anymore. So you maybe, like you, have that root canal and you have a frozen shoulder, but you would never connect it, because, first of all, normal medical school doesn't teach this, and most dentists don't understand. So this is where I come in and teach, hey, it might be your chronic knee pain comes from that root canal over there. If you understand fascial trains and all these things.
Want to transform your overall health and connect with my team directly? Then you need to visit theultimatehuman.com. On the site, you can ask me your most pressing questions, suggest podcast guests and topics you'd like to hear more about, and sign up for my completely free newsletter. In the newsletter, I share valuable insights on living a healthier, happier, and longer life, free from harmful chemicals. While you're there, you can also pre-order my book and find the genetic tests I frequently discuss. If you're curious about products I use for a clean, healthy lifestyle, you'll find all of my recommendations from toothpaste to household cleaners. So head over to theultimatehuman.com. Your journey to better health starts here. And now, let's get back to the Ultimate Human podcast. Let's talk a little bit about that. How an infection in the mouth or the jaw that doesn't have pain, because I didn't have pain.
Yes, that's the problem.
And I didn't have symptoms. Well, I mean, I guess these could be my symptoms, but by symptoms I mean I didn't have something that would have driven me to an urgent care center.
Yeah.
Right. I wasn't sniffly. I wasn't achy.
Yeah.
I didn't have any kind of fever or rashes or any of the typical symptoms. But the symptoms that I didn't know were connected absolutely went away after the treatment. But talk to me a little bit about what these cavitations, how are they related to the other parts of the body? What's the mechanism by which they're connected?
Yes. So basically, a cavitation is the layman's term for something called FDOJ in medical terms, fatty degenerative osteonecrotic jawbone. That's basically what it is, mushy, fatty bone. This is usually from extraction of teeth. Which teeth are mostly extracted in the Western world, at least, because of spacing issues? It's your wisdom teeth. Therefore, I always ask 3 questions on every keynote. It's like, any metals in your mouth, any root canals, any wisdom teeth, please stand up. And at the end, 95% of the audience will stand up.
Wow.
Especially on the Health Optimization Summit and biohackers. They should know it, but it's not connected as a foundational principle. Huberman just lately put it into his, at least.
Right.
But the problem is, it's oral health for now, like the WHO talks about it, it's mainly, like the WHO says 70% of all chronic disease start in the mouth, but they only look for the gum disease, the tooth decay, and the periodontitis. But dental repair is not in the thing. And these cavitations resulting from previous dental extractions, could be every single tooth, to be honest, is just, the problem is that the dentist basically just informs you about the local procedures. You will maybe have a swelling, you need to apply cold, take the antibiotics, take the painkillers.
Right.
But there's no systemic preparation of patients leading up to a surgery, especially when you're like in your childhood or teenager years and growing up with these wisdom teeth. So what happens is your body is in, I always say, it's in hibernation mode, not in an anabolic state, more like catabolic, or uses a lot of nutrients to just grow, but not heal. Therefore, people oftentimes develop dry sockets, which means it just doesn't heal. Then they have to go back to the dentist, and they will put in like a local antibiotic and leave it open for healing. So therefore, it basically is a secondary healing and doesn't really heal. And over time, it's kind of like a construction site that never stops. And because it gets ischemic, so there's no more oxygen in there, it's the perfect cave for bacteria, anaerobic bacteria, that are anyways living in your mouth. It's a huge microbiome. They like to live in there. And in the US especially, mold is a big thing. Mold spores tend to live in these cavitations. They also found mercury, heavy metals, glyphosates, parasites, fungi, everything in there. And it's a chronic thing that means, again, body dials down the volume. You don't hear it anymore. There's no local pain usually.
Right.
But systemically, like you had it, but you would never connect it. There's a problem. And if you see just the wisdom tooth area on that tooth meridian chart is directly connected to your central nervous system, to your heart meridian and small intestine. Small intestine, again, SIBO, skin eczema, thyroid issues, like
so
it's
recurrent
really,
SIBO, like
for example, if you seem to, like, this is what I always say, if you seem to do everything perfectly, like you said, lifestyle is on point, you do your training, you track your sleep, you do everything to optimize your health, but you still don't feel superhuman,
right? Then
it's at least time to find a good biological dentist to sort out that oral interference stuff that holds you back.
And start with this cone beam, which is the machine that I put my head in, and it took like a 360 degree cone beam view. And when he showed it to me, the cavitation, and told me that it was full of bacteria and pus and parasites and what have you, I was actually a little skeptical.
Yeah, of course.
Until we actually burst it and put it on a slide, and I looked at it under a dark field in the back of Dr. Gandhi's office, and I could literally see my macrophages going after bacteria and other things in that cavitation. So I was like, there's absolutely no, chance that that's not true.
Yes, but the problem is, this is something you don't learn in dental school. Therefore, if you have a cone beam done by usual conventional dentists, they won't diagnose this area because they don't even know about it. So if you have a cone beam, you have to have a dentist that is skilled to find these cavitations or at least know about it. Right. It's a bit of a thing because they're not connected. And these cavitations, besides being, let's say, a dumping area for toxins and all these things, They also contain a specific chemokine. It's called RANTES, RANTES, or CCL5 in medical world. And if you type in, or Google Scholar, RANTES plus, let's say, multiple sclerosis, we'll probably find 3,000 papers straight away. So medical world
RANTES plus.
Yes,
yeah.
medical world is looking for the RANTES, but they don't know about cavitations. And dentists don't know about cavitations and maybe have tested RANTES, but don't know how it's connected. Because RANTES is basically not a bad thing, but if it's chronically activated, it's like an ongoing construction site. It's never stopping. And then at one point, it flips.
And what is RANTES?
That's a chemokine.
It's a chemokine.
It's actually chemokine lignin 5, CCL5. So both of them are correct if you search for them. And they are highly represented in these cavitations. But cavitations, again, they're not accepted in university yet or not trained yet. Therefore, 99% of all dentists will tell you that's quackery or that's woo-woo, that's not existing. Even though they see it maybe, it's like, it's normal that there's fatty tissue in your jawbone. No, it's not normal that there's fatty tissue. It's a spongious bone. Why should there be a chronic inflammation? It makes no sense. Yellow bone is not good.
Yeah, and I think that, dentistry has got to be the only practice of medicine in my understanding that thinks that it's okay to leave dead tissue in the body. It's dead tissue.
I always say it's never been a good idea to leave a dead body part in the body. No medical profession would do that.
Yeah. I mean, if you have an appendicitis, you got to take it out. I mean, if you have necrosis in your bowel, they resect it, right?
Yeah, or if you have like a diabetic foot, they take it off. If you have a diabetic finger, like gangrenous stuff, that's gangrenous stuff in your mouth. It's kind of like the splinter in your hand that never goes away, or an ingrown hair, but it's not like an ingrown hair, or let's say a splinter on your arm. You will know, there's an inflammation. It needs to come out, right? Because you see it. But here you don't see it. But actually, it's even worse because this is central system. This is your brain. It's an extension of your brain. So for your body, this is way more complex than just having to lose the arm. It's like really inside of the nervous system, chronic inflammation. And chronic inflammation is killer number one.
It's the root of all evil. And I was reading recently about the similarity, the identical similarity between bacteria in the jaw and bacteria in cardiovascular disease. And so the specific strain of bacteria that they are finding in high amounts in cardiovascular disease, advanced stage cardiovascular disease.
Yeah, there is actually a theory going on. And I had it with Stephen Gundry yesterday. He is a heart surgeon. In his opinion, is that the plaque in your coronary arteries and stuff is kind of like it's just a biofilm. And the main station for all the oral pathogens is usually the heart is next. We know that in dentistry.
So say that again.
It's like biofilm is basically how bacteria colonize. Like biofilm in the mouth, for example, is if you drink a Coke, within a minute, you have like a fur on your teeth, right? Whereas this is just bacteria going in there. And this happens everywhere in the body. Like biofilms are on your fascia, in your gut, but also in the heart. So if you get that plaque in your heart, this is connected to pathogens. And these pathogens usually stem from the oral cavity. Because the second station, when it is swallowing of the bacteria, which you do about 140 billion a day, and they go straight into your heart. And we know this in dentistry because if someone had an endocarditis before, we have to give them antibiotics before even doing an oral hygiene appointment because we know that we stir up bacteria that go in there. But now you have a root canal, which leaves you with a dysbiotic area, meaning more bad bugs in there usually, activating your innate immune system, producing cytokines like TNF-alpha, IL-4, etc. And these pathogens then also obviously can travel. And the infection goes from the tooth, through the lymph, through the blood. It is in your body within a minute, as soon as it's in the blood. And there is studies showing like one of the bad bugs in the mouth is always Streptococcus mutans, as well as Porphyromonas gingivalis. And there's a newer study showing that even neuroinflammation caused by activation of glial cells comes from oral pathogens, just as Porphyromonas gingivalis, which was able to jump into the system. Why? Because you don't have leaky gut, but you have leaky gum already, which is bleeding gums. So bacteria just jump in, and this is how they find it in the brain. They find it in the joints. They find it in the hip joints and knee joints. And
they're coming in through the oral cavity.
Extremely connected to rheumatoid arthritis.
Could they possibly originate from one of these cavitations and then leak from the cavitation into the bloodstream?
Yeah, exactly. They could leak from the root canal. They could leak from the cavitation because it's directly connected. So the nerve, even the trigeminus, transports oral bacteria, toxins, chemokines into the brainstem. It's called retrograde axonal transport. And this is proven since the 1920s when they put in toxic croton oil into teeth of dogs. And they could find all the toxins within 24 hours in the hypothalamus, the pituitary, all the brain ganglia.
Wow.
Understand this. If you understand how complex the system is and how simple it actually is, if you understand the complete human body, then it's just like, makes sense, right?
Right.
That something here can leach out. And there's also studies showing, for example, that Rantis is connected to even breast cancer, like this chronic activation. And you can find all of it, but it's not really connected.
It's not
connected yet.
Want to get an extra hour of quality good sleep every single night? Let me tell you how I do it. My wife and I sleep on 8 Sleep's Pod 4 Ultra. This is a technology that fits over your mattress to cool or warm each side of the bed, giving you up to an extra hour more of quality sleep every single night. My wife likes her side of the bed warmer than mine, but I've noticed that I've improved deep sleep at cooler temperatures. It even elevates automatically when it detects snoring to improve airflow. With 99% accurate sleep tracking, you can leave your wearables on the nightstand, and I even had this thing independently EMF tested to make sure that I was not getting any extra EMF at night, which I'm not. Get $350 off the Pod 4 Ultra at 8sleep.com/Gary. That's 8sleep.com/Gary and use the code Gary, Gary, for your discount. Transform your nights and elevate your sleep. Now let's get back to the Ultimate Human podcast.
We've long since been told that, the metals in the mouth are not a good thing, right? Because they're conductive and they're interrupting not only meridians, but neuronal pathways. But talk a little bit about how that occurs. And because there are a lot of people listening right now that have mercury fillings or have silver fillings or have fillings that are other types of metals, golds.
Yes.
And then I also want to talk about braces because, 2 of my family members had braces growing up. And, when I think back, that's a lot of metal in the mouth for a long period of time.
Yes.
So what are your thoughts on that? And talk a little bit about the dangers of metals in the mouth.
So basically, metals come with 3 challenges. So let's say in dentistry, you use all sorts of metals to repair teeth. The one filling you're just referring to was the silver black filling, which is called an amalgam filling. And this contains 50% of mercury. And we know that mercury is the most toxic non-radioactive element known to men. And as soon as we take it out from the mouth of a patient, we have to remove it as highly toxic waste. But in the mouth, for some reason, it's super healthy and completely bound. So it makes no sense.
Hold on. So as soon as you take it out, you have to treat it as highly toxic waste.
Yes, we have to. It's really, there's someone coming in like a special delivery system or picking up system to take it away. Yeah, we know all this, but obviously this material is super for filling and super simple, and it lasts forever, and insurance has subsidized it. So finally, I think in 2025, they banned it in Europe. Finally. Versus like in Russia, it's banned for 30 years. In Scandinavian countries, it's banned for almost 20 years. Because they have a general mercury-free environment strategy, so you cannot put it in the mouth. And for me, back then, it was just an ugly material. I could never place a black filling if I can do a white one.
How long ago in America could you still put mercury in the mouth? Or can you still do it today?
In America, you can still do it today. Ever since 2018, there was a convention, the Myanmar Convention. You're not allowed to call it silver fillings anymore. So marketing was silver fillings. There's a little bit of silver in it, but it's 50% is mercury filling. So they now have to tell you it's mercury amalgam filling.
Yeah.
At least. And I think it's only a matter of time. Usually Germany hangs on to the US. So US comes first, but in this case, Europe comes first or Germany. And I think then at one point, the US should also stop using these really toxic fillings. So it's in metals, the challenges are always toxicity, which would be the mercury is very toxic.
Right.
And its toxicity is a little bit dose dependent. But the second challenge is always the immunology, meaning your body can become allergic to all this. They can become allergic to gold. They can become allergic to nickel, as you know, or mercury. I think there's a very good study where they did lymphocyte transformation test. It's a blood test to see if there is a type 4 allergy towards metals. And number 1 is always nickel, as we know, but you still find it in dental material.
Yes.
Even in titanium implants, they could be nickel contaminated in the braces. But then second is usually mercury, which is The main source of mercury toxicity is not the fish you're eating. It's still that mercury amalgam filling. Just you need to know that.
Why is it? Is the mercury leaking over time, which means that the filling is dissolving, or is it the conductivity of it, or both?
This is the argument that the dentist will tell you. If it would be leaking, then it would be gone at one point.
Right.
No, the problem is through, let's say, chewing, grinding, oral hygiene, brushing, eating, drinking acidic food, you dissolve a tiny little bit of mercury vapor every single day. It's around about 2 to 3 microns per day. It's like nothing. It's a millions of a particles. And this is you don't smell it. It's odorless.
Right.
And you don't see it. And the problem is with this mercury vapor, it's HC0. It goes directly into the cells. So even the rubber dam and stuff, it just goes through 7 layers of gloves, etc. Just goes into your cell. And then the only way to get rid of it is basically the cell dying. The problem is, in the brain, for example, or in the nervous tissue, you have a lot of catalases that basically oxidize that HC0 to HC2+. And then the half-life becomes 16 to 32 years in your system. So you're chronically intoxicating your whole cells.
Wow.
And number one station is always your pituitary and your jawbone, obviously. Like there's studies showing.
So the mercury will literally migrate to a location like pituitary, for example.
Yeah. So there's a study showing, like they did in the 90s, there was kind of like the amalgam wars, where they did a lot of research about how the mercury leaches out from these fillings. And they did one research with I think it was a sheep study, and I'm not sure about the other one, if it was a monkey, but basically they put the fillings, and then within 24 hours, they looked where the mercury went to. And within a minute, like the complete jawbone is basically mercury toxic.
Right.
But they also find it in all the detoxification organs, kidneys and liver, intestines, and also the brain tissue within a couple of hours, which makes perfect sense.
Right.
But this is not connected. And as you know, like we as dentists, we have to drill it out. So we don't have this procedure once in our lifetime. Sometimes we do 10 amalgam fillings a day, not protecting us. And there's studies showing that the pituitary gland, especially of dentists, is full of this mercury, which leads to stuff like Mad Hatter's disease. As you know, maybe Mad Hatters, you know about
Right,
these?
yeah.
The Mad Hatters were actually in I think it was in England in the early 1900s.
How fitting that we're in London right now.
Yeah, exactly. They were just using mercury to make the heads, like nice head rims or whatever you call that. And they all got Mad Hatter's disease, which is they got crazy and couldn't think straight anymore. Same obviously happens always if you work with mercury. So the toxicity is a problem, then the immunology. And the third bit that is still a little bit woo-woo, not for you, not for us in this realm, is EMF. If you have any sort of metal in your body, it's going to be an antenna. And the antenna, you have 3G, 4G, 5G, Wi-Fi everywhere. This will lead to more vapor coming out. There's even studies showing if you have a phone call, just with your regular cell phone, you usually have the electromagnetic waves go to the cell phone and the tower and back.
Right.
But if you have any sort of metal, it activates and it connects and amplifies it. So any sort of metal. And for mercury fillings, actually, it shows that the vapor is more. It's more production of vapor. Yeah. And obviously, the conductivity is a thing. Then you have your electrolyte in your mouth.
Right.
You know that you have different metals and an electrolyte solution that they will travel and ionize. And same, like, for example, put a picture, the propeller of a boat below the sea. How does it look after a couple of years? It's rusty, right?
Right.
The same happens in the mouth. It's just normal. So it's not a good idea, at least in these days, to put metals in your body. And luckily, we can replace all of them with biomaterials.
Yeah. Is that with amalgamate or with one of these ceramics?
For example, if you have lost a tooth, 99.7% of all dentists worldwide use a titanium implant. Titanium implant is a metal. It's a foreign particle. It will always cause ongoing inflammation. What we do for more than a decade is a ceramic implant. That's what you have. Yeah. Why? Because a ceramic implant is it's zirconia. It's just a healing stone. It's completely neutral to the body. And finally, luckily, ever since 2023, it is medical guideline in Germany. So what they were attacking me for 5 years ago when I came out with my book is now guidelines. So they cannot say anything anymore. And it's on top, the zirconia is medically proven a biomaterial. It's completely neutral to the body. It is just more difficult to osseointegrate it because you have to think about systemic bone healing. This is a big part of my teachings.
Right.
Make that body anabolic so that it really heals after surgery. And then it will just grow with you and be a part of your body.
Okay.
Obviously, the best material is your healthy tooth. But if that ship has sailed, we need to have a solution.
Yeah,
right?
and I noticed that one of the things that Dr. Gandhi told me about this new implant was that the gum would fuse to it rather than sort of have a metal edge and then the gum roll up and not really form a bond.
Yeah, so
and I can see that in my
it looks perfect. This is one of the biggest things because an implant is a prosthesis. It's actually an endo-exoprosthesis. So it goes through the opening of your oral cavity, like because bone is inside body.
Right.
Then gum is like your skin, is a protective barrier. And if you have some sort of metals and the gum, they don't like each other. There's just usually a chronic inflammation.
They don't like each other.
Yeah, and if you have like a tissue level metal implant, which is not the standard these days, but then obviously the gum is always open because it will never grow together. Versus, and this is from the titanium implantology actually, if you use a ceramic abutment and you have a bone level titanium implant, it will grow onto the ceramic. But what if the complete implant is ceramic? Way better, right? And then you have a tight junction, no leaky gum, therefore it's closed. And this is, I think, is probably the most important thing about these ceramic implants, that they have this tight junction.
Right. Yeah, I remember him.
It's not an open anymore. For you, it looks perfect. He loves it. Gums love zirconia.
Yeah. No, and really, I have to say that it was not a very painful procedure at all. Maybe because I'd already had the root canal, and so there wasn't a root in there. But one of the things I noticed was he videoed my surgery. And I put the videos up online. I wanted people to have as much information as they possibly could on it. And when he took the tooth out, it didn't bleed. And I thought that was a good thing.
No.
And he's like, no,
wait a
this is
second.
a terrible thing.
Yeah.
And there was just, and the gum was very pink and it was very pale.
Yeah.
And so he began to work it back to where it was really, I got that bright red blood again. And after the ozone and red light and getting that spongy bone, I guess as you call it, out, the dissolved bone, he actually showed it to me. It was like tapioca, it was like really just bad bone. Then the gum just had this healthy, blood red, to it. And that's when he did the platelet-rich fibrin and completed the implant. And I have to say that, I won't say it was a pleasant procedure, but I mean, it was a painless procedure. And I think a lot of people are putting these off because they think it's just going to be
It is. The problem is, people still think you're the barber surgeon that just pulls out a tooth. And problematic is that a lot of dentists do that because they just don't know other way around. So in biodentistry, it's really important to do as minimal invasive surgeries as possible. So taking out a dead tooth, the main goal is not to hurt your gum and your bone around it.
Right.
To conserve the anatomy. And so therefore you will never rip out a tooth. You just take it out gently, use piezo surgery, and it's completely pain-free because you don't do any flaps, no cuts. It's not necessary. You just take it out. Obviously, it is a little bit, this procedure it takes a bit longer because you have to be more precise, be more gentle, wiggle that tooth out a little bit. Just takes longer than ripping it out, but you save bone and tissue. And then what he did, like if you take it out and then it doesn't bleed, this is what I call a dry socket. And this is, in a root canal case, it's because of chronic inflammation, the wrong enzymes activated. So what he did is using piezo surgery, he used ozone and a lot of things to really get that blood in because blood is good, it's liquid healing, it's liquid bone.
Yeah.
If the blood is loaded, even better. And then if you can put an immediate ceramic implant, which he did for you, what you do is basically put a tent pole in there and something we call bone container principle. This ceramic implant is kind of like your tooth. That means your brain thinks, oh, there's still something. We don't collapse the socket. Whereas usually if you take out a tooth, the dentist will wait for 3 months. Right. Sometimes it's not possible otherwise, but they wait for 3 months. And what only happens is that your bone collapses. It's called alveolar atrophy. It's just like you don't use it, you lose it. It's just like your muscle. Right. It's just gone. But if you can put it straight away, then it keeps the anatomy. And this is the main part about it. It's not too important with your molars that you had. I know your one side didn't work, this one.
Right.
But imagine you have your front tooth. You need to remove it. How cool is it if I can remove it, replace it, and put a temporary on top and no one ever sees it, and we keep the whole anatomy instead of, oh, we have to remove it. Then you run around with like a flipper, like the thing that falls out all the time
Right.
for the next 3 months or 4 months. Then we do another cone beam, see, all the bone is gone. We have to rebuild it with a bone graft, takes another 6 months. Oh, then we put a titanium implant, which takes another 3 months. So
Right.
you can come from one appointment with me or Jigger, taking out that root canal, put it in, the ceramic implant, and then the second one will be just the crown work.
Right.
Versus 6 other appointments in 1.5 years. So it's really it's really less invasive, and you save so many appointments. And this is what dentists oftentimes forget about, that some people work. So they have to take off 6-7 times. So this is really expensive also.
Right.
So it makes sense to compress it. Therefore, our concept is to do it in a 1 week, like all the metal's safely removed, all the root canals come out, ceramic implants, cavitation surgery. We use obviously everything from biohacking in the clinic, hyperbaric, IVs, etc.
You do hyperbaric, you do IVs.
We have everything. I have a complete optimal health lounge in the backyard where I have everything for almost a decade now. You would call it a biohacking center, maybe. It is all there just to make sure that the patient heals perfectly. Versus they're obviously also prepared. So they come in fully boosted already with the right nutrition, the right supplements. And that's the charming part about it. That's why most patients actually fly in from all over the world to see us, because you can have it in 1 week and then maybe you come back 4 to 6 months later just for your crown work. And then it's kind of like medical travel. You at the same time do something for your overall health, can use all the facilities, and pain-free treatments mainly.
What are some of the things that you do to prepare a patient? Like I remember Dr. Gandhi did a high dose vitamin C IV on me.
So yes, so there's 2 phases. The first one is like every single patient has to send in their current vitamin D3 blood work and LDL. So I see, okay, are they depleted? Because, for example, vitamin D3 is super important for bone healing and for bone health. And I wanted to see it on the day of surgery. I want to see the vitamin D3 above 60 nanogram, which is above the norm, straight above the norm. And therefore, obviously, I've designed the food design concept. That's how I call my nutritional principles. It's just a booklet that they read. And they usually just follow my lead in this case. And they take the bone healing protocol, which is based around 20,000 IUs of vitamin D3 per day, including all cofactors, amino acids, supplementation. So I had founded my company for substance nutrition already before I had my clinic even, just to have this kind of procedure. It just naturally came. So they come in and then systemically on site is what we do, is basically not the preparation. This is more like a boosting around it, so to help. But the preparation really starts 2 to 4 weeks, sometimes even 6 weeks prior to make you anabolic. Yeah, it's also very important that you have enough protein in your diet.
And is this peptides? So what do you say you're doing to make them more anabolic?
To make them more anabolic is mainly diet and the micronutrients. Like we focus always also on methylation, like you do. Vitamin D3 is high. Yeah, it's important. It's in the complete bone healing protocol. Is designed for people that have SNPs. It's already included. It's designed for people that have cryptopyruria. So this all activated vitamins. But it's always nutrition is the motor for me. It's the foundation. I don't want to out supplement a bad diet.
Yes,
and then
it's so
basically
true.
Step 1 is they have a red chart, which is the core 4 stuff that you should just avoid. Like step 1 is ditch the crap food, gluten, dairy, or let's say conventional dairy, refined vegetables, and sugar. And then step 2 is learn how to think
conventional dairy, refined sugars, and
seed oils.
And seed oils. Oh gosh, yeah.
Yeah, and by conventional dairy, I just mean the normal one. Like if you have raw A2 dairy, is totally different. But to explain this to most patients is literally impossible. And then step 2 is just learn how to think in nutrients. So there's a green chart with proteins, healthy fats, carbs, and how to design this. And they get one goal is about 1 gram per pound of body weight protein, just to be on the healing side of things.
Right.
Or 2 grams per kilogram. And then when they come in, then obviously we do IVs a lot. We also have we scan the complete body. We do in-body scans. It's kind of like a DEXA, but without the bone density. The medical one.
I've seen that one.
And we have a global diagnostics machine, which is scanning your whole body against various frequencies just to see where you're at. It will find everything, like every little microbe and thing in your body, and tells you what the things are. And then is IVs, like Jigger does it, high vitamin C, various other nutrients day before surgery, on day of surgery, after surgery a couple of days, and hyperbaric we use a lot too. Just basically everything. Peptides are not allowed to
the healing process.
So if you look at hyperbaric in literature, when it comes to like surgeries, like it would be rude not to use it if you can, because it's so good. Obviously, if you're claustrophobic, it won't work. But if you can, like, you get all that oxygen into your bone and into your tissue, and just promote better healing. Less pain, less swelling, better angiogenesis, like antibacterial, antiviral, like that's the best thing to do.
And what is that, like 90 minutes a day?
Around the surgery, we do 60 minutes.
60 minutes.
60 minutes is usually fine with 1.5 ATA, so like that's...
atmosphere,
You can go to 2, but for usually, for most, let's say the balance is 1.5.
1.5.
ATA, and... yeah, then various other things. I'm not allowed to talk about peptides in my clinic, but obviously I would include this. So I work with a lot of integrative medical practitioners worldwide.
BPC 157,
BPC 157,
TB4 frag.
Of course, like the basics. There's even more you could do. Like probably even what I would probably do if you have that luxury of using peptides, I would maybe also look into the growth hormone peptides, like let's say the GHRPs and
GHRHs.
Stuff like tesamorelin or ipamorelin, CGC, stuff like this, because it helps being anabolic. And obviously, you know that growth hormone is very healing. So I personally broke my elbow twice in the last couple of years just by skateboarding.
You broke it both times skateboarding?
But it was like a radius fracture, so it split something off. And I went to the clinic, and then they wanted to do surgery, and I was like, no, my specialty is bone healing, so I will show you how to do it.
My specialty is bone healing.
Yeah, I know how to do this, even though it's not my mouth. I know how to do systemic bone healing. I'll show you. He told me, basically for 3 months, you have to wear a cast, and you cannot do any workouts, nothing.
Right.
And then you start with 2 kilograms. Like, no way. I'll show you. I'll do it in 6 weeks. And I was able to, after 10 days, I got rid of that cast. I use everything locally. I use peptides too,
right?
And whatever
BPC
possible.
157.
BPC, a lot, like locally, like even high, really high. And obviously the nutrition, the bone healing protocol. And within 4 weeks, I was back to training. Within 6 weeks, normal weights.
Wow.
Yeah, it's that, because it's stupid to not do something. Even with the cast, I was working legs and one side, because I know from studies, if you still train, you still keep your body anabolic. It will go to that arm that you don't use still,
I read an interesting study on that too. They were calling
it
is
not what you learn in university.
Mirroring, or the phantom response.
It's just systemic. As you know, if you get a good arm growth from just doing squats, for example.
Yes.
Because it's working, hormones and everything is working systemically. And this is where the connection for biodentistry comes in. It's just showing you as a part of the body. It's actually the entrance. And
you know, it's interesting. I actually had a dislocated shoulder years ago. And I remember the orthopedic would have me mirror my arms. Like I would do the same exercise with the healthy side of my body that I was doing with the unhealthy side of my body. And what he said is we'll relearn from the healthy side. And that's what I did. And he actually had me putting weights in one arm, and the arm that was injured, had no weights, but I would curl at the same time. And
just to the brain,
what was amazing was it definitely did atrophy some, but not nearly as much as
you would have.
I would have thought, for being totally immobile.
Yeah, of course. That's the problem. Immobility doesn't make any sense. Therefore, also with an immediate implant, you basically use it straight away, not for biting, but there is a little bit of a tiny movement.
Tension to
a little bit is there, because this is what activates the bone. Like, as you know, you don't use it, you lose it. Yeah. Same with the bones. It's the same principle with all tissues in your body.
Ever wonder how elite athletes recover faster and stay energized? It's the science of cold water therapy. Hi, I'm Gary Brecka, and I want to introduce you to Plunge. Plunge helps to soothe your sore muscles, boost your energy levels, and improve mental clarity. It's a powerful way to support your immune function and enhance your mood. Ready to transform your health? Take the plunge. Change your life. Visit plunge.com and shop now.
Now let's get back to the Ultimate Human podcast.
I've heard you speak about the importance when early in life, when mothers are actually still breastfeeding.
Yes.
And you talk about the importance of breastfeeding in infants, and how this completes the growth of the jaw, the teeth. And one of your suggestions, if I remember correctly, was that women should try to breastfeed for a minimum of 18 months.
Yes.
And so talk a little bit about that and the natural inoculation of bacteria and what does this mean? How does it relate to this biological?
All the moms out there, if you can breastfeed, is amazing. It's the best for your body, for your baby, because you transfer the complete microbiome through breast milk. But also, like you already mentioned, is sucking on the breast needs a lot of strength, and it will pull the lower jaw forward. It's actually the first orthodontic treatment. And at the same time, if you suck on a breast, you have to nose breathe, which opens up the palate. So it's a complete growth. Yeah, you cannot see a baby with like a clogged nose. It's dramatic if they want to drink the breast. They're always like almost dying. So it's really training the whole midface to grow. And this is the initial orthodontic treatment. So at least 18 months would be perfect. But ideally, you prepare for pregnancy, let's say at least 6 months to 12 months in advance, to get your body clean and healthy, because there's also studies showing that if you're not healthy, that breast milk becomes something very toxic. So, and also maybe you
anything I would imagine that crosses the blood-brain barrier would then cross into breast milk and therefore
exactly. And most of the toxins are fat soluble, and then they go into the breast milk and then transfer. Like for example, mercury from you could have never had a mercury filling, but your mom had during pregnancy, and you're still mercury toxic because of it.
Wow.
Yeah, it's super simple. It goes through the placenta, and then it goes through the breast milk, and you can offset a little bit, but it's just important to know. So ideally, my idea of the future of dentistry is actually that we don't need dental repair, because in nature our teeth are hard as stone, hard as granite. We wouldn't have braces. Like you probably read the book from Weston Price, Nutrition and Physical Degeneration.
Yes.
He was a biological dentist interested in nutrition, and we realized all that processed crap foods led to smaller faces, crowded teeth, gingivitis, gum disease, tooth decay, and mouth breathing. Kind of like our teenagers still look like. And he already knew it 100 years ago. Because 10,000 years ago, we even had space for 2 sets of wisdom teeth. We just had wider jaw.
Wow.
We ate more hard food. Now we're getting soft teeth. We're getting soft,
Yeah.
Like tooth decay is #1 chronic disease, 90% incidence. And this is completely unnecessary.
It's the #1 chronic disease, tooth decay?
Usually is 90% worldwide. Yeah.
Wow.
And it's just man-made.
And what about things that people can do to, aside from getting their root canals and cavitations fixed, like, talk about daily oral hygiene and like what is your stance on fluoride? I'm not a big fan of fluoride, but especially in our drinking water.
Yes.
But hydroxyapatite toothpaste.
Yes.
What is your
so the bulletproof oral hygiene is usually the conventional dental hygiene theory is actually outdated. We know that lifestyle is way more important. Unfortunately, the average person is Homer Simpson, doesn't know about it, and eat the crap food. So therefore, we still need that Band-Aid of maybe flossing and chemical mouthwash and chemical toothpaste. That's why we're really trained to do so in dentistry. Fluoride is like the #1 thing you have to think about. But calcium fluoride, yes, is occurring in your body. But this is sodium fluoride. It's a complete neurotoxin. It's soluble 100%. It's completely chemical. And a tooth decay is not a chemical deficiency. It's maybe a nutrient deficiency. Nutritional imbalances and stuff like this. But like initially you maybe need these things. Sometimes maybe you need an antibiotic because you have like such an extreme dysbiosis. But the goal,
I didn't mean fluoride treatments. I meant fluoride in water, fluoride.
No, but I like the goal obviously should be to have a oral care strategy that is as natural as possible. So I'm team no fluoride, obviously.
Yes.
I would never use it. I don't even use it for any patient because there are better alternatives that you just mentioned. Hydroxyapatite is the normal stuff that you find in a tooth. And it does the same things as fluoride, just in a more safe, healthy way. So why would I use something that is remotely unsafe, even though obviously you should spit out the toothpaste? You will still swallow a little bit. It will still be transferred through the gum into your system. And it's a compounding effect. It's obviously only tiny bits per day, but twice a day, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years. And you don't know about your kids if they even eat the toothpaste.
Swallow it.
And same with the fluoridated water. That's just a stupid strategy. It doesn't make sense because we know that there's dental fluorosis, meaning you have these mud-like teeth, which are like yellow spots, which come from too much fluoride.
Right.
So we know that, but we still give it, and it makes no sense. Why not just focus on minerals, vitamin D3, omega-3 fatty acids, vitamin K2, magnesium, zinc, stuff that really builds bones and teeth.
Right, strong.
And therefore, obviously, the toothpaste that I would recommend is always something that you would eat. Should be a supplement. Should be so clean that you can swallow it, and it maybe should promote a good oral microbiome instead of nuking it. Supports the body with hydroxyapatite, use stuff like lactoferrin, really good particles to do something good. And the second thing is usually you use chemical mouthwashes because of bad breath. Go in every aisle in the supermarket when it comes to conventional oral care. You have the usual suspects of fluoride-containing toothpaste, maybe teeth whitening toothpaste, and then you have Listerine. That blue stuff.
Yeah,
and it was
shells and shells and shells of it.
Look at the research, or not the research, look at the history of it. It is designed to clean a floor or maybe your toilet. This is how you should use it. But they somewhat market it to put into your mouth, and everyone still believes it.
Yeah.
And it will give this amazing good breath.
Right.
But the problem is it nukes your microbiome, and a dysbiotic microbiome will give you bad breath in the long course.
Wow.
Therefore, it will actually promote worse breath than what it says. It's just completely nonsense to use this. But you will see that most of my colleagues will prescribe it. It takes a while for them to understand, but there are better solutions. What we would do is just use an Ayurvedic strategy called coconut oil pulling or oil pulling.
Oh, I love oil pulling.
Because coconut oil is antibacterial, antiviral, has this lauric acid in it, and it just soothes the oral microbiome. It helps the gums, helps the teeth. Why not use it? Even though maybe there is not as much research about it than the industry sponsored one. It's just a food, but why not? Right? It would be rude not to use it.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And where do you stand on a good oral hygiene strategy? Walk me through a day of a really, really good, healthy oral strategy.
Do you just mean the
brushing, flossing, not using mouthwash, using mouthwash?
Yes.
Fluoride toothpaste, non-fluoride toothpaste, using hydroxyapatite. So what would, for example, I floss in the morning, I floss at night. Not aggressively, but I floss. I only switch with water, and then I use a hydroxyapatite toothpaste that's fluoride free twice a day. Sometimes in the middle of the day if I have bad taste in my mouth or something. But, and that's my oral care routine. And I do oil pulling 2 or 3 days a week,
and you have a good diet.
And have a good diet.
That's the main factor actually to promote oral hygiene. As you know, like eating real food will actually clean your teeth versus eating processed food, making that fur on your teeth.
Right.
So, but if you have nailed this, brushing is still important.
Right.
Just to keep it clean. So yes, what I would do, I start in the morning usually by waking up and using a tongue scraper. Tongue scraping is, again, Ayurvedic. You just use a copper tongue scraper and just simply scrape the ground of your tongue where it comes out of your throat.
Right.
Because overnight you will have food debris, you will have bacteria and stuff. If you do that a couple of days, you will see that that your tongue is not coated anymore. It's more like a pinkish one, and it helps with against bad breath. So that's just a good strategy. Then what I usually do in the mornings, obviously, then I hydrate and drink aminos and then go work out.
Same here.
I always work out in the morning in the AM, and then as soon as I prepare my breakfast, I will do coconut oil pulling at the same time because it takes a little bit of time.
Right.
I just put a teaspoon of coconut oil while I cook my eggs or whatever in the mouth and swish it around for at least 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Better even 15. So if you have that extra time, you're anyways doing something, why not?
Right.
So the main thing is consistency.
It feels so good when you're done.
And especially in wintertime when all these viruses coming in and the bacteria, it's just so good for your immune systems. And it feels good. It tastes good. I like the coconut taste. If you don't like or tolerate
and
coconut.
you just spit it out after, right? Yeah.
Not in the you should spit it in the bin, not in the sink, because it can't lock up the sink because it gets hard again.
Okay.
So just put it in the bin, spit it out, and then I usually eat and drink a coffee. And usually after food, you should wait about 30 minutes for your oral for your saliva basically to remineralize everything, because you might have had some orange juice, a little bit acidic, or coffee is acidic. So to rebalance this does your body by itself, by the saliva. Wait 30 minutes, and then I would use the toothbrush before I leave the house and brush my teeth for a couple of minutes with a non-toxic toothpaste containing hydroxyapatite, maybe xylitol,
Right.
but definitely no chemicals like SLS, triclosan, carrageenan, all the stuff that you find, sorbitol.
Yeah,
stuff
it's insane what
yeah,
you
but this
find
is like
in
no one
toothpaste.
challenges it. Like
Yeah.
I think these big companies, I could advise them to do the perfect toothpaste, and they could probably change the game. But you know how it is; it's a running system. Why change it?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
for them, it's like the Colgates and the Oral-Bs and all these things. They're just in every single supermarket. I go to every single supermarket when I travel and look at the oral healthcare section from Africa to America to everywhere. It's always the same. It's just
It's
a
exactly the
mirror
same.
copy. And it's not challenged for the last 50 years, but we have to finally, because we're growing up and we're changing the message, and it's about optimal health and not
Yeah.
just about absence of disease.
Yeah, and we know now. I mean, especially based on your work, that the mouth is inextricably, it connected to the rest of our body.
Yes, obviously. And the microbiome, like you know that we have different microbiomes. The biggest one is usually in the gut,
Right.
But we have a skin biome. We have like a vaginal one, but the oral one is the second largest and the most diversified. So they found up to 700 different species in the mouth.
Wow.
And if that gets out
That are
of hand,
germane only to the oral cavity.
only to the oral cavity. Obviously, you swallow about 140 billion per day. So that translates 50% of your gut microbiome comes from the mouth.
Wow.
So if you had dental repair, obviously you have dysbiosis. So for example, mercury fillings will lead to candida overgrowth
Right.
and mold issues and stuff. So you have to sort that ecosystem again to become normal and natural. It's like a baby, the breastfed baby has a complete different oral microbiome and gut microbiome than a formula fed baby.
Yeah, that is so
or
true.
a cesarean section baby. So it's actually all about the microbiome. And the only thing I say, like if you focus on your gut health, don't forget the entrance to the gut because it
Yeah.
transfers all the time. And this is why it's so intrinsically connected. But for every single normal person, not medically trained, it just makes perfect sense. Oh, why? True. It's the mouth, it's the start of the tube, and it ends at the back door.
Yeah.
So why should this be not connected? It's kind of like the
Yeah.
entrance hall to a hotel. Like, is this, if you look into a hotel, you walk into a hotel and the lobby is shit, you know the rest of the
lobby
hotel
is shit.
the rest of the hotel is too.
Yeah.
So you can see if the mouth is already wrong and you have dysbiosis and you have bad breath and you have a lot of dental repair and you have gingivitis, gum disease, leaky gum, you know that the rest of the body is not healthy.
Yeah.
You can just see it in one glance.
So if I don't know whether or not I've had a root canal, and I don't know whether or not I have anything going on that needs attention. What are some of the signs and symptoms that your oral cavity needs attention that people might not be thinking about? I mean, the obvious pain, bleeding, obviously is going to drive you to a dentist. But
Yes.
in my case, I had things that I did not link back to my oral cavity that I can definitely say were now because they're gone. So what if I'm listening to this podcast and I've
Yes.
had a root canal, I've had my wisdom teeth
Yes.
pulled, or I've got metal fillings. How would I know that this is having some kind of systemic effect on me?
Yeah, just like you just said, ask yourself these three questions. Metals in my mouth, root canals, wisdom teeth pulled. If any answer is a yes, you might have something called oral interference, basically stuff that is distracting or imbalancing your microbiome, your immune system, and your nervous system on a daily basis. That doesn't mean you have any pain locally, but you maybe have a myriad of health issues that you can't seem to solve.
Right.
And therefore, you have to find the right practitioner to then know about these things and help you with a solution. Because I'm not here to scare you, I'm just there to inform. I would never advise you to have, I have a metal filling, now I go take it out by a regular dentist.
Right.
And they don't do it safely. So it's all about the strategy. Don't freak out. It's just more information for you to know, root canal could be the thing holding me back. Especially for example, for women. I have a lot of women that couldn't get pregnant. I'm always joking that they got pregnant after seeing me.
Right.
They do it. Like I can show you a lot. I can show you a lot of like female patients that send me this. I blame this all on you because I had the cavitations, the root canal removed, and finally I got pregnant. Why is that? It's just super simple. If you have chronic inflammation, root canal cavitation, this is triggering your nervous system, your sympathetic nervous system, putting you into stress mode. Your body doesn't want to get pregnant in stress mode. In a chronic war zone, it's not good to get pregnant. You want to have yin. You want to have parasympathetic. So this root canal or cavitation could just be the one single splinter you need to remove, the source, to just get your body into parasympathetic. And this is what happens on the chair often, that patients, you take out the cavitation and they just start crying because they initially kick that trauma off and the parasympathetic system comes in. And we're about to bring in a new device, which is a lifetime it measures the HRV in the moment. And it will show you if you're resilient and how you flip from sympathetic to parasympathetic. Because I want to show that on data.
Wow.
Because patients feel it obviously all the time. Then they cry, and then you have to tell them, hey, it's a good thing to cry. It's your parasympathetic nervous system. But showing this on paper is even better.
Showing their HRV improving.
Yeah, making it scientific. Yeah, or just changing. Like, it doesn't mean that you... Like, the HRV is a little bit complex, but it's all about resilience. It's about how fast is your body in adapting sympathetic to parasympathetic.
Right.
Can it flip in a second? Because you need your sympathetic nervous system. Of course, instantly I want to do a surgery, I have to be in a sympathetic focus.
Right.
But after surgery, I shouldn't stay there and have like a parasympathetic digestive stuff to eat my food or chill in the evening. So this is about balance. And the HRV is also something I'm very, very heavily focusing on with different devices, like the Aura ring or the Ultra Human ring or the Hoop. I did it all. I tested it all because patients have different devices. They are not. This is not the HRV I'm talking about. This is just maybe your nighttime average, and these devices are often correlating higher HRV to more health. That is not correct.
Wow,
it's not correct at all, because you have to find your individual HRV. There are different people. So some people have an average HRV nighttime. If you look on your Aura, like let's say the trend for the year is 25.
Right.
Yeah. And Aura would say is not good.
Yeah. My son's, mine's in the 40s. My son's is over 100.
Exactly. This is because that's what I just wanted to mention. Right. So like, you could be a sympathetic person being in the low range. 20 to 40 is more sympathetic dominant. Right. Then 50 to 80 is more like a balanced mesomorphic type. The other one's more ectomorph. And then above could be a true parasympathetic dominant person. But it doesn't mean that he's healthier or she is healthier. Just it's your normal. Because you see, if you get a virus, you will tank probably to 5 or 10.
Right.
And he will probably only tank to 90 versus I maybe tank to 20.
Right.
But then also for me and also for you, if you go on some, let's say, a diet for an extreme period, you want to lean out to 5% body fat, you have to push it a little bit. So what happens is my heart rate will go down to 30 and my heart rate variability will go up to 95. And Aura will give you 100 score, but I know my adrenal glands are just off and my parasympathetic has to do overshifts to compensate for it. So it's not about getting high or low. It's just finding your spot and seeing why are you in a sympathetic or even in a parasympathetic state. So a lot of patients are in toxic parasympathetic state because of leaky gut, for example.
Right.
The parasympathetic has to do overtime, more work instead of being in balance.
The parasympathetic is overworking.
It's not always sympathetic. Some people turn into parasympathetic problems. Yeah, they're getting too lazy,
too much rest and digest.
Because that system is trying to help and repair, but it can't. And that's why you need that balance. And this is why when you have like lifetime measurements, or real time, that's the word I was using. Real time measurements, you can see, is that body resilient? Is it is it really good to do surgery right now?
Compared to your baseline, not compared to somebody else's.
Exactly. And this is obviously these machines cost more like 5,000 to 10,000 euros and are more medically proven. But I still like to track devices, but this can also really distract you.
Yes.
So you have to just see it simply as data. Don't get emotional about it. This is why a lot of patients I just take it away. It's like, don't watch it. You will feel bad just by doing it. Yeah. Look in the morning. Oh no, they wake up pretty good, but then they look at their data and it's like, oh, I had bad night's sleep.
Yeah, my daughter is famous for that. Like, she wakes up and feels great, and then she's like, I had the worst night's sleep. And my HRV was here, my heart rate was here, my respiratory rate was here, and then it just gets inside of their head,
and then
they get
stressful.
hyper focused, and it becomes a source of stress.
Then it's more stressful than having it. For me, it's just a data, and usually because I'm very fine tuned with my body, I know before the ring that I'm sick. For example, it usually comes a day after. It's an aftercast. Yeah. So if I'm already on the upwards trend, it shows lowest point. So it's always about the patient. It's about the clinic. It's about what you see, what you feel. It's not data first.
Yeah.
Obviously, we use blood work and data to improve, but I don't want to treat the data.
Right.
I want to treat the person.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. I mean, I'm so glad you're saying that. So for somebody who is interested in seeking out a biologic dentist, is there any repository for them, any place that they can go to find someone maybe that's trained under you or somebody that's trained in biologic dentistry? Because I don't think that anybody that can just remove a metal filling is necessarily.
There are different levels to it. So everyone can call himself a biological dentist, and a lot of biological dentists will do a biological root canal treatment. No. So the way I define Biodentistry 3.0 is really being consequent, doing the high-tech dentistry with all the biomaterials, using functional medicine and health optimization. So it's a different breed of dentists. And I finally opened up the online certification for it. It's called Biodentistry 3.0 certification. And the tribe I'm building is called the Real Biodentists, the Real Bees.
The Real.
And those are on the directory, because you get in the online version, it's basically my teachings of the last 10 years consolidated in a 4-week program where you just have the software updates so that we can talk perfectly.
Right.
You have a couple of knowledge gaps. And then level 2 is when you come in and shadow with me, look into surgeries, and then start your own business, or you're already a surgeon and you just upgrade a little bit using the IVs now and the food design. So you get certified in the biodentistry level 1, food design concept and bone healing protocol. And therefore I have a directory because I had to build it. There's so many, because of my work probably and doing it for such a long time, it becomes a little bit of a trend. And as you know, marketing is more important than what you really can do, unfortunately, and it's bad for patients. So I want to recommend, I don't see it necessary that every single one comes flying into Germany when there could be someone in LA or someone in New York or doing the same thing. But I have to make sure that I can recommend them because they are solid. They know what they're doing. So that's why I finally made it. And I'm very happy because there was times when I thought, just forget about it. But there was so many questions, so many dentists asking for it. So I thought, okay, it's international, it's in English, and a global training. And the first one that actually flew in was from Australia. There's one Australian Real Bee now.
Really? Australian Real Bee?
Yeah, in Adelaide. And it's crazy. In the whole Australia, there's only 5 dentists that, for example, do a ceramic implant. And only one being in complete Australia. It's insane.
Wow.
And Jigger flies in next week. I think I meet him on Monday in a week. So
he does?
He comes in to see me and see the clinic.
I love that, man.
But he's already an amazing surgeon. So for him, it's super simple. Because it's the difficult part is not the dental work. Because this is something, if you're good with your hands, you can basically learn that by just looking at it. And just using different materials. The difficult part is understanding the body, understanding the physiology, understanding the nutrition, the supplements, the intricacies of functional medicine. This is the next level. This is why I call it the dental evolution. It's not contrary to conventional dentistry. It's just next level.
Right. It's just next level. So where can they go? Like how can they find you? How can they find out more about your
So about me, you can basically, the easiest is Instagram is Dr. Dom1.
And that's Dr. DOM1.
DOME1.
DOME.
In Germany, my name is Domme. Domme is the abbreviation of Dominik in Germany. So that was my nickname as a kid. So Dr. Domme in German, but in English it's Dr. Dom.
Yeah,
because I don't like.
Definitely, you don't want to be dummy. You don't want to be dummy in English. You want to be dumb.
And also not dome. Yeah.
Dome.
It's like doom, right? It's funny. Like we had Dr. Domme, and we wrote it DRDOME, and then someone was saying, "I don't know what you're saying."
Dr. Doomy?
please do me, Dr. Doomy. I was like,
saw that.
I knew that you would. And I was like,
Doomy, dumb. Yeah,
and I was like,
none of it works.
Okay, I shouldn't do that. It doesn't work. Yeah, so they're very creative. So find me there. Then there is a directory, obviously, for that biodentistry. It's the Institute of Biological Dentistry, is where you find
the Institute of Biological Dentistry, because we're going to put that in the show notes.
Yeah,
for sure.
That's where you have the course for the dentist, and then the directory to Dr. Domme Official. There's a Dr. Domme Official webpage. And then for the intro level, like some people just have metals to remove. There is the IAOMT in the US and ABDM. So they train dentists to become SMART certified. SMART certified means safe mercury amalgam removal technique. So they know at least how to remove.
SMART certified.
You could look them up. They will know at least how to remove mercury and metals safely, because that's super important.
Right.
They might not know about the root canals. They might not know about ceramic implants.
Right.
That's for the real bees.
But vapor, all those
but
things.
But at least they know how to do this, because you don't want to go to your dentist and just drill out their fillings, because then obviously the mercury vapor and the stuff that you swallow is way worse than just having it.
Right.
You have to find a solid strategy first to find the real one.
Amen.
Amen.
And then finally, I wind down every podcast by asking all my guests the same question. And it is, what does it mean to you to be an ultimate human?
For me, it means that I feel like a kid. I just wake up in the
That's really
morning.
good.
I have no problems. I have tons of energy.
Yeah.
Switch on, switch off at night. I can sleep well. My mental health is perfect. I have time to train. I have time with my family. I have time on the mission. I have time with surgeries. Like, just be in flow state. That's being ultra human for me. And this is actually how we're designed to be, right?
Yes.
Just being. That's
Yes.
the ultra human. Just be yourself. And this is difficult because I'm trained to do the opposite.
Right.
Just to do all the time.
Right.
And I had my own fair share of health issues very early. That's why I'm on that path.
Wow.
Like, I know how it feels if you're really, really in bad shape.
Yes.
And I had lots of mental health issues in my early 20s
You
because
don't
of my
ever wanna feel like
lifestyle
that
as a teenager becoming a skateboard. I wanted to become a skateboard professional. So I was drinking probably 5 days a week from 14 to 21 years old.
Wow.
And I just had fun, but then it flipped, and then I had to dig myself out of it. So I know how it feels if you're on that level of suicide and all these things.
Right.
But I also know how you feel if you get it.
If you're in a flow state.
And then obviously, it took me a while to figure out how to get my neurotransmitters back into place. But when I learned it, I was like, oh wow, this is what I need to do. I want to help patients. I want to really help them heal. And now this is just my journey. Just
That is
empower
so
as
awesome.
many as possible to be ultra human, to be like superhuman.
Yeah.
Or a health avenger. That's what I always call us. Like Marvel?
Yes.
And I always refer to as the health avengers because I want us to be inspiring people. Just like an athlete or a professional or a star or whatever, we can
Right.
also inspire a lot of people just by being it. And therefore, the health avengers, they live by example. I'm Thor, by the way,
Right.
if there would be the health
No,
avengers.
you're number 4?
No, I'm the Thor.
Oh, Thor.
the Viking. Yeah,
That's awesome.
Yeah, and then Tim maybe he could be the Iron Man, definitely, because the gadget guy.
That's great.
And yeah, you know what I mean. So
Well-
I think this is how we can, if we practice what we preach and live by example, I think this is how we can help many and inspire. And I always say patients that make it to my chair, they're part of the mission.
Yes.
Because they will heal themselves like yourself. And then you have that intrinsic motivation, that moral obligation to share, right?
Yes.
How can you hold it back?
Yeah, like I do now. I mean,
you can't.
I feel like I'm more, and I don't have any deal with Dr. Gandhi or with you or with anyone else. I just feel like this needs to be platformed.
It needs
and
to
the word
come
needs
out.
to be get out there because, and so many people are on these health journeys, and there's that one thing that they just can't figure out.
Exactly.
And, I've always said, the body does not behave irrationally.
No.
It behaves very rationally, and sometimes we just need to figure out why it's behaving that way. And this is another key to that puzzle of potentially chronic disease and other things that people are suffering from that they just don't know how to solve.
Especially for really chronic disease, sick chronic people. This is how I started like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Mainly, my main patients were super sick patients like Alzheimer's, Parkinson, cancer, end stage, ALS, and all these things. Not too nice. They just basically needed this to start their health journey.
Right.
But now it upgraded to more people that are just already quite healthy, but they just want to have the next level.
Yes.
And for example, like yourself, you didn't connect your body symptoms to your mouth, but then you had that surgery done and it's gone. For example,
Very
my brother, he is very healthy too, and he does everything. And he said, okay, I have cavitations on the cone beam, let's just do it.
Right.
And then he told me like a week later, okay, I can now tell you what happened. I just need 1 hour less sleep. Like
Wow.
1 hour. And it's
Yeah.
like, oh, that's a lot. Like,
Yeah.
because the body needed this hour of more deep sleep or whatever to compensate for it.
Yeah.
And
So-
this is how impactful it is. And therefore, it's my sole mission to spread the word.
So incredible. Well, it really comes through. And I think my audience felt it today and they know where to find you now. So I really appreciate you coming on today, giving us some of your time, your inspiration, and for teaching people like Dr. Gandhi that are going out and helping to change the world. My audience knows where to find you and knows about your website. So you're probably going to see some activity there now.
Thanks. Thank you.
And as always, guys, this is just science.